Hi, my name is Linda Cirulli-Burton, and welcome to this channel named Above the Battleground, ACIM. When I am looking at the rest of humanity from a very compassionate perspective, I see how we are all struggling to have peace and joy and love. Of course, for some people, going walking, watching birds, participating in nature. Then there's some of us, that participate in special rituals, do our prayers, study sacred literature, listen to beautiful music, sing, chant, twist our bodies into crazy forms, do deep breathing, collect essential oils, collect special rocks and stones. Use incense or something that is sweet smelling. We keep on trying, we keep on trying. And then something happens. The phone rings, the conversation is not so good. We go off. Somebody flips the bird, okay? That something comes up in the mail that infuriates you. I mean, it's like in a nanosecond. You think you're with peace and joy and love, and in a nanosecond, you ain't. So I wanted to look at that. What is going on? So looking at that resistance, if you will, really kind of was an intriguing lesson for me. Above the Battleground is based on the teachings of a spiritual self-study path known as A Course in Miracles. Now, I've said many times, I've been on this path for a long time, and when it showed up in my life, I knew it was meant for me. But I am not going to lie to you. I have not been consistent with it. I would do it like for 6 months, and then I couldn't stand it anymore, and then I'd dump it. And then I'd pick it up again, and then I would dump it again, and then I would pick it up, and then keep picking it up, dumping it. And then I'm telling you, there came that time. And the time I'm thinking for me would have been a couple of years ago. Yes, a couple of years ago. I finally became a consistent student, but I still get thrown off. I still do. And so I want to study this and understand it better. Dr. Ken Wapnick, the founder of the Foundation for A Course in Miracles, earned his PhD in clinical psychology. Now, he had a lot of reverence for Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud, of course, is known as the founder of psychoanalysis, kind of, the talk therapy with which many of us are familiar. And Sigmund Freud lived from 1856, I believe, to 1939. Now, what Freud believed was that we were governed by our unconscious. Our conscious lives were governed by our unconscious, which was sort of like the receptacle of repressed emotions, repressed experiences, belief systems, and that if he could get a patient to unearth what was in the unconscious and bring it up, then healing could occur. I will say that I think Sigmund Freud was absolutely shocked because let me share this with you, because Ken Wapnick, in an article written for the Lighthouse Anthology in June of 1999, addresses this, and it's something that was written by Freud in the question of lay analysis. So what I'm going to do is, and it's cleverly set up, is when I read one part of it, because this is Freud talking to himself. So when I say Sigmund, and then I'll say Freud. Sigmund and Freud. And I think you're going to understand. So, Sigmund. It will then be your fate to make a discovery for which you were not prepared. Freud. And what may that be? Sigmund. That you have been deceived in your patient. That you cannot count in the slightest on his collaboration and compliance. That he is ready to place every possible difficulty in the way of your common work. In a word, that he has no wish whatever to be cured. Freud. Well, that's the craziest thing you've told me yet, and I do not believe it either. The patient who is suffering so much, who complains so movingly about his troubles, who is making so great a sacrifice for the treatment, you say he has no wish to be cured. But of course you do not mean what you say. Sigmund, calm yourself. I do mean it. What I said was the truth. Not the whole truth, no doubt, but a very noteworthy part of it. The patient wants to be cured, but he also wants not to be. They, the patients, complain of their illness, but exploit it with all their strength. And if someone tries to take it away from them, they defend it, like the proverbial lioness with her young. Now, I will say a statement that Ken made underneath this. This phenomena, which is so clear to the psychoanalyst or psychotherapist, is not always recognized in discussions of the spiritual life. This year, for the first time in many years, I decided to do the workbook lessons. That would mean every day applying a different idea from A Course in Miracles to my existence. And I noticed how nice Jesus is. Like, sometimes he'll say, you know, this idea, you probably don't believe it, but just apply it anyway, right? And then sometimes he'll say, well, you know, you might feel uncomfortable with this, so if you do, don't do it 3 times, do it 2 times, you know? And then, I mean, he's always kind about it, you know, he's always looking out. And then there's a time where he will say, your resistance is too high, you're not ready for this. So basically, take a break. I certainly have done enough of that in my past, but the thing that I really love is that he does not want us to disparage ourselves. He doesn't want us to, you know, be punitive because we're not ready, you know? It's like it will take time to undo the ego mind, okay? The mind that thinks it is discrete and separate and special from you. The mind that says it's either you or me. Or it's the mind that says, you are the guilty one, I am innocent. Inside that ego mind is all of the darkness that A Course in Miracles is trying to help us unlearn that thought system and replace it with a totally different one. So definitely a mind training, and it can take a while. I can't say how long it would take, but it could take a while. So anyway, what is it really that we're afraid of? Well, in an earlier video, I did share how I had a dream one night, a dream within the dream, where I was crossing a bridge and I didn't want to go. I was petrified of going to the other side, and I screamed and screamed and screamed in my dream. And the nerve, the fear, I really, well, what Jesus wants us to do is to look at what is coming up, looking at our resistance. And every time you and I get thrown for a loop, you and I, you know, that phone call, that thing that friend said, that text that came in, it's almost like that is where we run when we're scared. So what will it mean to release the ego? Well, without a doubt, it's the melting of all boundaries. It's what we would talk about in the right mind, or the mind of spirit, where there is only one, where you as an individual have become my brother, where you are my friend. We have the same mind. We are joined in the sonship. And I think that the fear of the loss of the identity that we carry in our ego mind and out into this projected world, we're petrified. It's like watching a lot of people be afraid of dying, it's because they don't know. When you don't know, you're scared of the unknown. And Jesus knows that we're scared of the undoing. So also in a previous video, I shared visuals that were helpful to me. One would be, shining the facet of a diamond, and then another facet, and then another facet, until it's gleaming perfectly, right? Or climbing up a ladder, and we get to the highest reaches of the ladder, and we're just one step left to getting into heaven. Or the peeling away at the onion, and when you get to the base, there's nothing there, but there's everything there. It's pulsing with love. But I think we cannot minimize the terror for most of us, and the decision, this is too hard, I can't do this is too hard. I have to tell you, I've gone down for the count many, many times. And sometimes it's taken me a long time to stand up again inside of my own spiritual path. But as time goes on, and we spend more and more time in our right mind versus our wrong mind, in our spirit mind versus our ego mind, and I think the happier and the more at peace, and the joy and the love that is found there, it starts to call to us, I believe, more and more strongly. But first, we have to confront the resistance that we put up with our spiritual paths in order to stay distinct and special. And the realization that there's another world, another way of being, which is so astounding and so lovely. Really, Sigmund Freud would be proud to know the numbers of us who are prepared to look at the darkness so that it can go away, and so that we can go purely to the light. So thank you for joining me, and I look forward to being with you again.